It's mock draft time. 2 rounds today. Hayden has round 2. I have round 1. And most importantly, these teams have told us some truths, Hayden. They've started building their teams a little bit more. We have free agency, mostly a few waves of it in our back pocket. And that really narrows, I think, our vision of what the needs are going to be once the last week in April rolls around.
Mock drafts before free agency don't count. The ones directly after. These ones start to count. So we got updated team needs and stuff. If you guys want to help me out, if you're a fan of a team and you want to write your actual team needs down in the comments, that would help me out.
Would love that. Any comments you do have, commentary on the picks that we make, we would love to hear them. All right, we're going to go through this, starting with number 1, Las Vegas Raiders, Fernando Mendoza. This one is quite simple, but Hayden, do want to just ask you, they no longer have the 14th pick. They did add Tyler Linderbaum for a record, not just center fee, but interior offensive line fee, but nothing else along the offensive line. Added Jalen Naylor at wide receiver, 2 new linebackers, Kwity Paye at edge. Just overall thoughts on what the Raiders did in free agency.
I really liked it. The Linderbaum price tag got pretty outrageous, but like they obviously needed somebody like Tyler Linderbaum, and like salary for this season doesn't really matter. I like what they did on the defense. All of their signings are really young. Both their linebackers are young. They traded for a veteran in Teron Johnson at nickel corner, but aside from that, Kwity Paye, like these are all like second contract players, and if you can hit on a couple of them long term, that's going to help you for when this team actually matters, which is probably closer to 2028.
And just heads up, next week we're going to start posting our prospect profiles, the individual ones. We're kicking things off with Fernando Mendoza early on next week. So lock in the channel, hit subscribe, because these next, 7 weeks, there's going to be fantastic content for all of you. So Fernando Mendoza goes number 1. That brings us to the New York Jets at number 2. Filled a bunch of needs in free agency. 2 new defensive tackles in Devondre Sweat via a trade. Then David Onyemata, new linebacker in Demario Davis, Joseph Asai to pair with Will McDonald on the edge, Minkah Fitzpatrick at safety, Nahshon Wright at corner, and then obviously a true Hollywood story in Geno Smith back at quarterback.
What I found troubling was their average age of their like new signings was at 31 and a half, which is for a rebuilding team is not exactly how you'd want to draw it up.
Get some adults in the room.
They did, maybe a little bit too adulty though. So that's like my big problem with the Jets. Obviously this defense is going to be a lot better this year than it was previously. They can go in any direction here. They still have a bunch of needs up front and in the secondary.
I'm going to side with Arvell Reese here. And I threw out his odds at minus 132 that I found a couple weeks ago. He said in his meetings that teams have asked him what he wants to play, outside linebacker, off-ball linebacker, or edge. He's also said that teams told him they view him mostly as an edge rusher. That's where he played about 60% of his snaps last year. Look, I don't think signing Asai prevents you from taking someone like Arvell Reese here, who can be potentially a true difference maker as either a drop-end, pure pass rusher, or if you theoretically do want to move him pure off the ball, Hayden, I think there are like 3 pathways here for Arvell Reese to have a ton of success in the NFL.
Yeah, he's going to fit somewhere. And then if you want to do the Demario Davis thing, who's 37 years old, as the mentor to Arvell Reese as the off-ball linebacker, I would totally get that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, they gave Jamien Sherwood this contract, and the contract is even higher of a fee than what Devin Lloyd, near all-pro, signed this offseason. So I'm kind of wondering if they're already regretting the Jamien Sherwood contract on top of this, and maybe they can get out of it when they can. All right, Arvell Reese, pick number 2. That brings us to the Arizona Cardinals in free agency. 2 new guards in Isaac Seumalo and Matt Pryor. They brought in Tyler Algier, the running back spot. All reports indicate that it will be Jacoby Brissett versus Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Then on defense, practically nothing was added. Does that point you in any direction here with your thoughts on what they might do at number 3?
I thought it was one of the most pathetic free agency periods for any teams. I mean, you don't see, they have the 3rd overall pick. They didn't really add anything. Like Isaac Seumalo, I like him when he's healthy. He's also 33 years old. They, got a running back in there, and their defense is about the same. They can go any direction. I do think off-ball linebacker makes some sense. They can obviously draft another edge rusher here, or it can be somewhere fancy on the offensive line. They still don't have a right tackle, so I don't know what they're doing.
I'm going to go with David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Straight line speed and, defensive end size. I'm unsure of what the future is with Zaven Collins as an edge rusher for this team. And obviously they've gone big up front with Walter Nolan and Darius Robinson over the last 2 years in round 1. Josh Sweat no longer has the Jonathan Gannon connection here on this team. But I think David Bailey, if you kind of read the let's say, anonymous reports from NFL minds that are in the league, David Bailey's up there for many as the edge one. And while he might have some limitations in terms of lateral agility, I think that he fits in at number 3 quite well.
Yeah, he's going, top 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range for sure. So the Cardinals could absolutely do it.
Number 4, Tennessee Titans. This is where it gets interesting. Lots of defense in free agency. Jermaine Johnson via trade, John Franklin Myers, Jordan Elliott up front, and defensive backfield, Cordell Flott, Alante Taylor in the back half. And then in offense, Brian Daboll said, well, we won so many games last year with the Giants. Why not just bring some of those guys back like Wan'Dale Robinson? So what do these additions tell you on what the Titans might do at number 4?
That the only thing they care about is if they knew the guy before. It was another one of these really crazy off seasons, man. Like, at least they got really young across the board there. And like the defensive line is without question a whole lot better. And that's what Robert Saleh absolutely needs there. But Brian Daboll got a lot of power and they didn't go very far. It was like, all right, the Giants and the Jets from the last couple of years, remember how good those football teams are? We got to bring all those guys and how good the culture was for those teams. All those guys are coming down to Tennessee. They still got holes kind of everywhere.
This one gave me some trouble. Goes in 2 directions for me. I've been saying Jeremiah Love, and I still think that's a real possibility here. As soon as you draft him, you can save about $7 million on Tony Pollard. I think adding just more explosiveness, more playmakers around Cam Ward should be priority number one for this team in the offseason. And their biggest dip in that was Wan'Dale Robinson at wide receiver. So
yes,
again, from that aspect, I think Jeremiah Love is a target. However, I'm also looking at Robert Saleh, head coach, added a ton up front, added a ton in the back half. And then his linebackers are Cedric Gray and Cody Barton after, coaching some really good ones over the last few years with the Jets like CJ Mosley, with the 49ers, it's Fred Warner. So Hayden, on this mock, and this will change in the future, but in this one, I am going to put Sonny Styles here at number 4 overall.
I think Sonny Styles is going 3rd, 4th, or 5th. He's that good of a prospect. He's got tons of range. He's really tall on top of that. I think he's got great instincts. I know that Robert Saleh would love him. I think the Cardinals will love him. And then if he gets down to the Giants at 5, they also have a need. So this is his range, absolutely.
Off the board goes Sonny Styles. That brings us to number 5, and the New York Giants in free agency signed Isaiah Likely, Patrick Ricard on offense while retaining Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, then Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker, and others on defense. What do you think of the moves that the Giants made here to surround Jackson Dart and a new head coach and play caller?
Nothing too crazy. They didn't get over their skis. I really like the Jermaine Illuminor re-signing. I thought they got a good deal on that. They still have some defensive holes, especially right in the second level. So I do think Sonny Styles would make a lot of sense. And then the offensive line's kind of squared away, but I still think they need another wide receiver. I like Isaiah Likely in this offense. He's paired up with Theo Johnson, but it can't just be Malik Neighbors and my boy Darius Slayton. Not good enough.
Sometimes when doing these post free agency mocks, I look at what the beat writers and those around the team actually said what target positions were prior to free agency and that weren't filled. For the Giants, this one is pretty easy. Jordan Rodon said, quote, they're seriously looking at some of the top running backs, both in the draft and free agency. Players like Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love, Travis Etienne, and Ken Walker. There seems to be a clear focus on becoming a more physical, run-heavy team. Straight from Jordan Rodon. So,
yeah.
Travis Etienne, is he a Giant? No. Ken Walker, is he a Giant? No. Is there someone left? Yes. And Jeremiah Love. And I understand, Cam Scatterbu had a very solid rookie season. He's a prospect that you and I loved coming out of Arizona State. He's also coming off a significant, leg injury. On top of this, do we like Tyrone Tracy as a role player in the NFL? 100%. Do either of those guys hold a candle to what Jeremiah Love can bring to this offense? Not for me. And if I'm tracking what beat writers say and where the focus is and a new head coach and a new play caller, I am siding with Jeremiah Love not making it past the 5th overall pick.
I can see this happening. I think it would be insane if it did happen. Cam Scatterbu had a really good season, and he was really physical. I thought the ground game was really physical. They need a little bit better interior offensive linemen, so I can absolutely see this happening, but it would be insane.
And if we even go back a few years, the owner feeling a bit embarrassed about letting Saquon Barkley go and immediately him winning a Super Bowl. And look, Harbaugh has not shied away from investing in running back when he was a head coach of a team. Matt Nagy's old team just spent a boatload of money, a gazillion dollars on Ken Walker III. So sure, like this could be Caleb Downs, or it could be Reuben Bain, or it could be a wide receiver in Carnell Tate to pair with Malik Neighbors. Right now, though, I am putting Jeremiah Love at number 5 overall. That brings us to the Cleveland Browns, number 6. In free agency, a new guard, a new center, a new right tackle in Zion Johnson, Elton Jenkins, and Titus Howard. Also got linebacker Quincy Williams on that side of the ball. What do you think about the Todd Monken-led Cleveland Browns in free agency?
They addressed their offensive line. They also paid a ton of money to do so. I thought the Zion Johnson contract at left guard was pretty abnormal. And same thing with the Titus Howard contract for like $7 or $8 million more than the Jermaine Illuminor types out there. So yeah, their strategy for a new offensive lineman was the teams with the worst offensive linemen that are letting their offensive linemen go. We'll take all of them. What can go wrong?
And Zion Johnson's biggest positive is that he's still young and was a first-round pick. You know, it's not his play on the field. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he has drastically improved every single year. It's been a total rocky road. Again, we mentioned all the offensive linemen along with Titus Howard and getting that in a trade. The one position that they haven't filled is left tackle. I mean, DeJuan Jones is coming off a significant injury. And so here, I know he's not being mentioned a ton out there as the number 1 offensive lineman off the board, but I'll continue mocking it until I'm told that's incorrect. Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Your thoughts, Hayden?
I think he's going to go really high up in the draft. He's got a huge ceiling to him. He's massive. He can really move. And the last couple months of the season looked really good for him. And the other top tackles in the class are starting to get labeled as centers and guards more often. And a lot of them were even right tackles. So they have the right side of the line squared away. They need a left tackle. And I think right now it's like Caden Proctor, Monroe Freeling, Caleb Lomo. I think everyone's going to have different grades on him, but I think that the highest ceiling guy is definitely Freeling.
Only 21 years of age, big program, outstanding athlete. It's a pillar premium position for Andrew Berry to fill on a, position of need and, targeting 2027 for a quarterback potentially. So Monroe Freeling is the pick at number 6. Here we go. Washington Commanders at number 7, recapping their free agency. All defense.
Yep.
Odafe Owe and Clavon Chason on the edge. Leo Chenal, Nick Kroos, Meek Robertson. They were also in for Romeo Dobbs, did sign Chig Okonkwo on offense. Lots of defensive focus over the last week, Hayden.
I really liked what they did on defense. I thought they got a lot of really athletic young players coming into their second and third contracts. I really liked the safety signing that they got with Nick Cross. He's just a really fun player. So the defense should get better. They really rebuilt the defense in one offseason. They can still use another piece or two there. And then they have a couple holes on the offensive line still. And then obviously wide receiver with Debo gone. And we'll see when the 49ers decide to let Brandon Ayuk go. That could be a little bit.
I think there's still a number of holes here for the Commanders to fill. I mean, center, they cut Tyler Biadasz, maybe underappreciated what the market would be for centers at large. Their left guard and Chris Paul is still a free agent. Like you said, they don't have a wide receiver 2 at this moment. So, you know me, I like to go back and look at a whole bunch of quotes out there. One, because Reuben Bain is still on the board. I'm sure a lot of Commanders fans would want him. And this is from Dan Quinn, quote, "We want to get longer and faster on defense." I'm not saying that DQ is anti someone of Reuben Bain's build, but I'm not necessarily sure if he totally fits that part. And look, I'm still considering drafting him here, and someone like Clavon Chason doesn't prevent me from doing that. I think only Owe is under contract after long this term. Year among edge rushers.
Yep.
But the player I'm going to go with in a Durante Jones, Minnesota Vikings-esque defense from Brian Flores, who employed Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus all over the formation. How about Ohio State safety Caleb Downs?
Yeah, I mean, he'd be really fun. Nick Cross and Caleb Downs have maybe a little bit overlap. I do think that you can play Caleb Downs in the back half as well. He's going to go really high there. I just want to quickly mention there was a couple of reports that he might have some injury concerns. So we'll have to get to the bottom of that as we get further along into NFL draft season. But if Caleb Downs starts sliding down, there's some other rumors that pop up. Like, that's probably why.
Number 8, New Orleans Saints did some big work in free agency. Left guard David Edwards in. Running back Travis Etienne in. Caden Ellis to fill in for Demario Davis. Cam Jordan might be on his way out. So Hayden, we look here at the New Orleans Saints. I think a lot of people's pick for the team on the rise. What do you think Kellen Moore did over these last few days?
I really liked what they did in free agency. I do like the Caden Ellis signing for them, bringing him back home. A great culture guy as well. I still think that they have, another skill guy they can add, as at least catching the ball over there. But I like Travis Etienne and the offensive line there. So I would probably guess it's going to be a defensive player unless they make the exception at wide receiver.
Chase Young, fantastic free agency signing a couple years ago. Got him at a discount because of all the injuries that he had. I do want to pair him and get younger at that position. This is where I have Ruben Bain going, and we're probably not going to get a full athletic profile out of Ruben Bain. And if you look at his mock draftable spider chart right now, it's basically all in the center. But the dude just plays his tail off. He is super strong, and they've invested quite a bit of cash and picks up front. But I think Ruben Bain would really create an edge for them. No pun intended, opposite Chase Young.
I would really, 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 really like this one. If you're going to be light in the box, you need ass kickers up front. That's what Ruben Bain is. I think that his pass rush plan is just so much better than everybody else. So
let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs at number 9 overall. And speaking of, they brought in K9, Ken Walker III, as their explosive big play running back. Also some other signings in Alohi Gilman and Kyrus Tonga on the defensive side. We know they also traded away Trent McDuffie for the 29th overall pick, lost their other starting corner to the Los Angeles Rams in Jalen Watson. What do you think are the 2 or 3 big positions that the Chiefs need to target here in the first 2 rounds?
My biggest team needs for the Chiefs, I have edge rusher, X wide receiver, and then outside corner. Outside corner is a little bit wishy-washy because you just never know what evaluation Spags has from the current guys they have on there. They let the other guys go, though.
I think with this, they have to do some internal debate, internal conversation of, okay, we've got 2 first-round picks at 9 and 29. What do we feel like the top of the cornerback market is compared to maybe the top of the wide receiver market, compared to like the top of the edge market, And so all these 3 positions will have players both at 9 and 29, but do they want to be the first one to draft a corner off the board? Would they rather do that at wide receiver, or maybe get right now, the 4th edge rusher off the board? I have them siding with Carnell Tate here. And look, this might change. I feel like the wide receiver stacking of this position this year is going to be all over the place, like what we had with the, Zay Flowers, JSN, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison year. It's somewhat similar to that. But with Carnell Tate offering a skill set that they simply don't have on their roster, let's put it that way, with Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and whoever the hell else you want to throw out there. I am leaning towards Carnell Tate here at number 9.
I think he's the receiver that stands out the most to me. I think a lot of the wide receivers that are going to be available at 29 might be that kind of inside-outside versatility piece that they already have kind of on the roster. It's hard to find big wide receivers that could also run routes. So he's not lightning fast like Brian Thomas is, but he's a better all-around wide receiver at the same type of build here. So I think I would pick Carnell Tate. Absolutely.
You agree with me. Number 10 overall. Maybe some Bengals fans are upset with how this has fallen, with no Ruben Bain, no Caleb Downs, so on and so forth. But one of our favorite prospects, I think one of the league's favorite prospects, and Dylan Thieneman makes a lot of sense here. On top of Hayden, what the Bengals already did in free agency. I mean, they spent a little bit in Boye Mafe and Brian Cook at safety on top of it.
Yeah, Brian Cook is kind of similar to Dylan Thieneman, but they still need the other safety spot as well. He's so fast, and Brian Cook comes down and makes a bunch of tackles, as does Dylan Thieneman. So this would be as big of an upgrade by a position from one offseason to the next one would be Bengals safety if they did go this route. By the way, I'm counting 2 moves so far for the Bengals this offseason. Time's ticking. A lot of these guys are off the board. I did like both the moves, but 2 moves.
I mean, that's maybe even more than they typically do in these first few days of free agency. Thieneman is fascinating. We're going to keep talking about this over the next few weeks, where, at Purdue, covered a ton of ground, back half safety. At Oregon, it was a 3-3-5, kind of stuck between those linebackers and those safeties, and really ran downhill and made a ton of tackles. So he showed comfort at any level of the defense.
Yes.
And that's freaking awesome in today's NFL.
Yep, he's going to go high.
Hair loss. Many, many men suffer it from ages, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And if you think you are starting to thin and look in the mirror every single day, and it's going back and back and back with that receding hairline, now's the time to do something about it. And I know a big hang up, a big stumbling block is, man, it's just going to take way, way, way too much time. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. So Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. And there are no hidden fees. There are no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. So for simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/underdog. That's hims.com/underdog for your free online visit, hims.com/underdog. Individual results may vary based on topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Thank you, Hims, for sponsoring the show. Number 11, Miami Dolphins. My jaw hit the floor when looking at their depth chart yesterday. I mean, after multiple waves of free agency, I counted that they still needed at least 6 starters. I mean, one guard spot, a second wide receiver, one edge, outside corner, nickel, both safeties. Not even to mention special teams with a long snapper and a punter. I mean, these are all questions, Hayden. And that's after adding, Malik Willis and Josh Uche in free agency.
Yeah, their entire secondary needs to be workshopped right now. They still need, I think, more depth at edge rusher after losing all their guys. They don't have a tight end, really. It can't be Greg Dulcich full-time. So, yeah, it's a rebuilding team. That's for sure. It's Malik Willis. That's going to be the hard part about this contract. I like Malik Willis for the price they did. He's got 1 year to figure this out. It's a 2-year contract, but he's got one chance to figure it out before they're going to be picking really high up in the draft. And apparently there's going to be 3 or 4 guys at the very top of that. So it's a 1-year contract practically. And the rest of the roster is not great.
You often hear that, the salary cap isn't real. Don't tell that to a Dolphins fan when, they have an NFL record of $99 million in dead cap. And again, here we are sitting on Thursday, 3 days after free agency began, and they need at least 6 new starters. That is truly insane. Yeah. I'm going to go with offensive lineman out of Miami. He can stay there. Short flight to drive. Francis Mauigoa. He can fill in at right guard immediately if they need him to. Or if they want to kick Austin Jackson inside, he can ultimately play the right tackle position. But this offensive line has to be right. I think in order for, this team to have success, and, they've spent at left tackle and at left guard, well, depending on, where the kid out of Arizona plays next year. And then at right tackle and Austin Jackson. And I think Mauigoa is just going to fit in with this perfect.
Yeah, the Dolphins have $150 million in dead money over the next couple of years. That's a half salary cap. So half of their rosters on other teams. Mauigoa would be great. Kick him at guard, go out to right tackle when they want to give up on Austin Jackson. And I think he would be a potential Pro Bowl level guard. And I think that, maybe you're not going to take that at 3rd, 4th, 5th overall. But I do think in this range, I'd be stunned if you made it much further than this.
Dallas Cowboys, number 12 in free agency. They traded for Rashawn Gary. They traded away Osa Odigizua because they had a glut of talent along the interior of the defensive line. We also know they retained George Pickens on the franchise tag. What needs do they have left here?
Well, I still think they need edge rushing help, linebacker help, and I'll throw out defensive tackle. They'd have no depth behind Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams. Now, those are awesome players, but you play other defensive tackles, slot corner, so it's the same positions as usual.
Corner number 1. I mean, this team's cornerback room is horrific. Here they have their decision of who is going to be the number 1 corner on the board. That could be a multitude of names this year. I'm still going to side with Mansour Delane out of LSU. We've talked about it consistently, how few receptions he gave up last year, and no pass catcher caught 2 against him in a single game all of last season. So maybe he can be a, pillar piece of their defense moving forward.
Yeah, the other corner that they'd be considering would be Jermon McCoy coming off an ACL. Would they go, back-to-back drafts, drafting a corner coming off an ACL? It seems a little bit risky, but who knows?
LA Rams, pick 13 in free agency. They traded the 29th pick for Trent McDuffie, made him the highest paid corner in all of football. Then they signed again his running mate in Jalen Watson, also from the Chiefs. Also brought back Cam Curl at safety, Tyler Higbee at tight end. When you look at this Rams team, and it's very clear they're going all in for this final year or 2 or 3 of Matthew Stafford, what needs do they still have?
This is one of the teams, when I was going through my team needs, I could barely find any. Like, this team is so stacked everywhere. I put wide receiver as my top one. Linebacker, right tackle. But I think they like the right tackle that stepped in last year. They need some edge depth. The other safety spot, they can go in a couple of different directions. I just think, like, who's going to help them this year? Because the only season that matters for them is this one.
Exactly. So when you have no needs, why not have a little bit of fun, especially for a team that were linked with a trade up for Brock Bowers and tried to do that. There was some interest in Colston Loveland last year. Look, I know they have Puka Nacua. I know they have Devontae Adams, but I know they took Terrence Ferguson and brought back Higbee, and Colby Parkinson had some moments. But let's just get freaking Kenyon Sadiq in a Sean McVay offense and see what happens, Hayden.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to play all the snaps, so that would be good for him, and he would just the play action, big crossing routes and whatnot. He would add explosiveness there. They do have 4 tight ends. Do a 5th. Why not?
Yeah, you've heard of 13 personnel. How about we run some 4 personnel and somehow figure out a way to get 5 personnel out there on the field with all of these tight ends.
Sadiq Wildcat.
I do think, though, for an offense that loves to attack over the middle, that can get these guys from condensed formations like down the field and just get their athleticism and use that to win over defensive backs. Like, from a 1-to-1 on-page fit, like, Kenyon Sadiq does fit exactly what the Rams want to do.
You guys are seeing my second round mock draft, one of the last picks of it. I have another fit kind of building off of this. So I agree.
14, Baltimore Ravens. In free agency, we know they lost Tyler Linderbaum to a record-setting deal. They traded for Max Crosby, then backed out of the trade for Max Crosby, got those 2 first-round picks back, including this number 14 overall pick, and then signed Trey Hendrickson for nearly the same amount of money that they were going to give Max Crosby. Also, they brought back their old guard in John Simpson for one of those spots, lost Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Draymond Jones, Patrick Ricard, and Alohi Gilman. That's a lot of stuff.
It is.
That happened with the Ravens over the last week, Hayden. What are they left with here heading into the draft?
Team needs, I got outside receiver, outside corner, center to replace Linderbaum, of course, and then they still need edge rushers. Like, if you want to believe the report, which, by the way, I fully don't, that they were going to bring in Trey Hendrickson with Max Crosby. Like, I mean, that is complete absurdity. They do need backup kind of edge rushing help. And then same thing with defensive tackles, who we have no idea about Nade Madubuike.
I know that Spencer Fano is listed here at tackle, and he 100% played that over the last 2 years and even spent a season at left tackle. I also remember during NFL Combine Week where he did a post-workout and took snaps at center. So I think at guard, this team is going to have John Simpson, Voorhees, and Emory Jones, who I believe was a 3rd-round pick last year, compete for 2 of those guard spots. Yeah. And that just leaves a gaping hole here at the center position. And why not just spend another 1st-round pick on that spot with Spencer Fano?
Yeah, Spencer Fano would be in like the Tyler Linderbaum center mold, where he's a freak athlete, get him out in space, and then we'll see if he can develop enough power. If he falls this far, it's because teams across the league just don't believe he's going to be a right tackle. If teams believe he's going to be a right tackle, he'll go inside the top 10, perhaps even as high as like 3rd overall. If he's anywhere in this range, it's because, he's a guard or center.
Number 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Feels like free agency priority number 1 was adding an edge rusher, and they really haven't done that. I mean, Al-Qadim Muhammad is visiting them today, but tank is running dry on that edge rushing department. So in free agency, they did add Alex Anzalone at the linebacker spot, big, massive man, and A'Shawn Robinson up front, and then Kenny Gainwell to fill in for Rashad White, who will ultimately depart. And we know they lost some big names: Mike Evans, Jamel Dean, former 1st-round pick, Logan Hall. So what are the Bucs looking for here in the draft?
It's a Todd Bowles draft: edge, linebacker, defensive tackle, and I think the rest of the rest of the roster is like in decent enough shape. They need like a hit though. They have not had a like true game-breaking hit in the first round on defense in a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like if Kalijah Kancey could just stay on the field, he would be a massive hit. Maybe their best draft pick as of late on the defensive side has been Yaya Diaby, who was a third-round pick in 2023. Obviously, Zion McCollum, fifth-round pick in 2022, is a perfect athlete, has really come into his own. But I'm with you. In this round one, I'm going to go to that pass rush department, even if, someone like CJ Allen at linebacker would make a ton of sense to fill in for a possibly departed Levante David. But like in this edge rushing territory, Hayden, it gets weird, right? Like we can talk about the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows of Hakeem Messidor, who's going to be 25 years of age. Keldrick Falk is an interesting body type, around 275, 280 pounds. Does that fit what the Buccaneers want to do? So instead, I'm going to go with TJ Parker, who's like maybe not excellent at any one thing, but just extremely well-rounded as an edge rusher.
Yeah, this edge class is difficult because there's a lot of the same body type, and it's kind of this TJ Parker one, like long arm, but like just does not have that first step explosiveness or proven bend or like pass rush plan. But he can convert to power, and he's got a nice long arm. He's also 21, and he had a lot of hype coming into this season. So my favorite of the bunch is Hakeem Messidor, but you have to take on the risk of his injury history and his age and some other things too. And then the rest of this group is kind of like, they don't have a lot of juice like we're typically seeing in this kind of range.
Number 16, the New York Jets are back on the clock. Again, took Arvell Reese with a number 2 overall pick. This could easily be corner or wide receiver.
Yes.
But the Jets, again, seem completely geared towards a quarterback in 2027. So we're going to go with Vega Ione out of Penn State to fill in that left guard spot, which is a pretty gaping hole for them at this moment.
My second biggest need behind, obviously, quarterback. So this would be awesome if he can fall this far. It seems like his range is kind of like 11 to, this range right here at 16. So this would be a blessing.
Number 17, the Detroit Lions. They brought in Cade Mays to fill in for Graham Glasgow and the retired Frank Ragnow. Also Drew Scruggs as part of the deal for David Montgomery. They did sign Larry Borum to fill in potentially at one of the tackle spots, Hayden. I read Dave Burkett, a longtime beat writer of the team, and he said because of that, the plan is to move Penei Sewell to left tackle, after the Taylor Decker release.
Wow.
So where do you think this team might be looking here in the draft?
Definitely the tackle spot stands out to me. Edge rusher, they'd need somebody behind Hutchinson. We've named a couple of the pending free agents at edge rusher. Linebacker with Anzalone gone, though they have a couple other studs there. Slot corner. And then also mentioned running back, not for the first round. But yeah, it's the left tackle or right tackle. Penei Sewell switching sides, I'd be like, I'm just trying to be Tristan Wirfs again. Like just if he can do it, I can do it. And there's probably some truth to that.
He can probably do it. I mean, there's a lot of tackles still on the board that have played either right tackle or left tackle. The one I'm going to go with here is Max Einacher out of Arizona State, who has been a long time right tackle, who can be a people mover, who can be a pass protector. And this gets you back to, your first round investments that you've made along both tackle spots for years and years and years. What do you think about that pairing?
That would be really, really fun. He is a good athlete, really long, like looks the part. And then he was one of the guys on just in terms of pressure rate allowed, really stood out in that category against lower competition. So he's still a little bit of a work in progress, but if he hits his ceiling, he's going to be a really good tackle.
Number 18, the Minnesota Vikings. They retained TJ Hawkinson on a reduced deal. They cut Javon Hargrave, John Allen, Ryan Kelly. It's like last offseason didn't go as well as they wanted it to, Yeah. They've also lost Jalen Naylor to a pretty hefty contract to the Las Vegas Raiders. So far, they've only added corner James Pierre. And as of this moment, we are waiting for, Kyler Murray to sign that veteran minimum contract. Mm-hmm. So what are the Vikings' needs here for the first round?
Well, don't just James Pierre. He's going to be a stud for them. I really like that move for like no money. So we'll see. Free safety, linebacker, receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle. I mean, all the guys that they just cut, like they have to replace these guys very cheaply because they have next to no money.
Really, really, really wanted to go with Caleb Banks here. Again, with all the defensive tackles and pairing him with Jalen Redmond would have been cool, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, one, if this team is loving the Jordan Addison experience over these last few years. And even if they are, Hayden, their wide receiver room is completely gone. I mean, they are really depending on Ty Felton, to be their wide receiver 3 this year at this moment. After Naylor gone, after the trade that was horrible for Adam Thielen last year. And if that's the case, I'm leaning right now with Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. So back-to-back Sun Devils heel.
Yeah, interesting. I can see this a little inside-outside versatility. Obviously, Jefferson can do that as well. He would run a lot of the, crossing routes and whatnot in this offense, which is obviously a huge staple. But yeah, they're pretty much on 1-year deals with Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and these guys. So like they're going to have to kind of replenish the skill group eventually.
Number 19, Carolina Panthers. In free agency, we know they dished out some big defensive deals. Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, edge rusher, linebacker. Luke Fortner was brought in to replace most likely Cade Mays at center. This team really, really needed some juice on defense, Hayden, and they brought it. So does that change what they might do here in round 1?
There's another one of these teams where they don't have huge glaring needs, but not everyone on the roster is so good that you can't replace them. I think left tackle stands out to me just because of the Ekwonu injury. One of the safety spots, nickel corner, if they want to upgrade their center position again, but not in round 1. And then the other linebacker spot, I think, still up for grabs.
I think the glaring need is left tackle. If they had to suit up today, and we have months and months and months, until they do. Stone Forsythe was brought in as their swing tackle. Stone Forsythe was arguably the worst tackle in football. I'm going to go with Caleb Lomu here out of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shooting my shot.
Okay.
You ready? I guarantee you if they draft Lomu, Dan Morgan is going to get up the podium and say, I play with a pretty good left tackle out of Utah who is a great athlete, and his name was Jordan Gross. And I do wonder if maybe there's some bias there.
Wow.
And, Dan Morgan sees some of the same traits here with Caleb Lomu, who moves extremely well.
Yeah.
I think kind of a very different type than what Ike Ekwonu brings at left tackle here. And honestly, the future of Ike is up in the air after this injury, and then basically his contract runs out.
Yeah, really bad timing for him just with the injury, because he was playing better at the end of his rookie contract, but now you're coming off a very severe injury. Yeah, Lomu the question is he too Will Campbell in that he's not strong enough in terms of anchor? His movement skills, there's no denying it.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Lomu came in and kicked Fano to right tackle, right?
He did.
Yep. Fun player. And Utah played a bunch of big time stuff. Go and watch both these guys' games against Texas Tech, because we know both of those edge rushers will get drafted. So it's some really fun competition.
Yes,
you want to watch those. Next is pick 20. This is the Dallas Cowboys. We know they took a cornerback earlier in this mock. Hayden, I'm going to give them Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. Again, I'm not going to call him a tweener. I think he has to figure out what position he's best at and where he might be deployed. Is he going to be more of a slasher on the interior? He's going to be more of a power edge on the outside. This team, obviously, Rashawn Gary, and then Ezra Raku is coming off a injury and a surgery that I don't know is getting enough love here when we're talking about mock drafts. But Keldrick Falk is my pick here at number 20.
20 years old. He's 6'6", 276. He's got really long arms. He says he watches Buckner and then Trey Hendrickson. He's caught between positions. He does not have the burst of those guys. Just straight up does not. So, they would have to figure out how they're going to develop them and exactly what the ceiling is that they're chasing.
We talked about it with wide receiver, but this second tier of edges, Mesidor, Falk, and we're going to talk about a few here in a moment in Zion Young and Lawrence, that I think each team is going to stack these guys extremely differently, just based on the qualities, the traits that they value the most.
I think it's very overrated, this edge depth. There's some guys that should go in the second round that are consistently being mocked in this range. And I think that some of the guys that are 65th overall in consensus sports are just as good as these guys, to your point.
Well, maybe that was a shot at me because I have a couple of those names coming up here in this.
Well, this is what everyone says. I mean, this is what everyone says. It's probably true. I just don't see watch the NFL guys and then watch these guys' first steps and tell me if I'm crazy.
21 Pittsburgh Steelers in free agency traded for Michael Pittman, signed Rico Dowdle, added Jamel Dean at corner. They did lose one of their starting guards in Isaac Seumalo, And as of this moment, still don't have a quarterback to throw to any of these guys. What do, other than quarterback, these Steelers need here in the draft?
Quarterback, left guard, one of the safety spots, like a nickel corner, and then defensive tackle, like depth. I will say this, going through the roster, it's a good roster, except the quarterback.
Oh.
Obviously, everything's about the quarterback. I fully understand that. This Steelers team would crush last year's Steelers team. Like, they didn't really lose anybody. Bring in Pittman. I like what they did in the secondary this time around. They re-signed some players as well. Like, this team, the trenches are good on both sides, and now the secondary and wide receiver room are a lot better. Like, it looks like a much better football team. Like, I can't promise what the hell's going on at quarterback, but I think like the roster, I think it looks pretty dang good.
I know that Mike Tomlin is gone. I'm still giving this team a wide receiver in round 1. I think Mekhi Lemon could bring something to this team.
Yes.
That DK Metcalf does not offer as an outside wide receiver. And then I know Michael Pittman just got guaranteed even more money on top after being traded. But this trio at wide receiver could not be more night and day versus what they did under Arthur Smith with just DK Metcalf being like an underneath weapon and an yak guy. I know some of that is, connected to the quarterback that was throwing to them, but we know Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there for more than 1 year, if 1 year at all. And so why not get that guy a few more pass catchers here?
Yeah, average depth of target was dead last for the Steelers last year, and I think that a lot of the quick hitting stuff with McCarthy offense as well, Mekhi Lemon in the slot kind of doing a lot of the underneath stuff would make a lot of sense. Like Metcalf down the field, Pittman kind of in between there, and then Mekhi Lemon underneath. I think it looks a lot better than keep throwing the ball to the tight ends like they did last year.
Some of the criticism I've seen from Mekhi Lemon, and by the way, again, we'll have a individual prospect profile for him, so again, hit subscribe if you want to. Is that he doesn't have a second gear. Do you agree with that? Does it matter?
Yeah. It matters a little bit. Like the JSN comp is like there's probably that ceiling does not exist for Mekhi Lemon, but could he be a Amon-Ra St. Brown or something like that? I think he absolutely can. So it's not enough to like completely knock him down, but like it is a fact. Like he does not pull away from guys constantly. That's for sure.
Pick 22, LA Chargers. Free agency brought in Tyler Biadasz at center. Very much needed. Cole Strange at right guard. Also Charlie Kolar, Alec Ingold, and Keaton Mitchell, all for Mike McDaniel's running game.
Yeah.
They did nothing on defense and lost Odafe Owe. So do you think that is where they're headed with this?
Team needs edge, left guard, right guard if we don't believe in Cole Strange. Defensive tackle is absolutely another one. And then free safety would be lower on the list, but absolutely a need.
Maybe the Odafe Owe loss and going out and trading for him last year is clouding my mind a little bit, but there's one edge here that is not mocked high enough, in my opinion. I was even considering him for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's Malachi Lawrence out of UCF. I mean, his athleticism pops. And I also think that his chase down and closing speed can lead to a lot of pressures and even sacks in the NFL. And if you think I'm talking about Odafe Owe, it was very much the same thing last year with the Chargers. And I think this pairing with Thule and with Khalil Mack would make a really fun trio for 2026.
I thought his get off and size was fantastic. I think he can turn the corner on top of that. And then he won with a bunch of different pass rush moves as well. So his win rate was fantastic. Apparently he lit up the Shrine Bowl. I have no idea why he did not go to the Senior Bowl, or I don't believe he was invited to the Senior Bowl. I don't understand that whatsoever. But right now I'm watching all the edge rushers. I might have him as my edge 3 or edge 4. Yep. And I think that he might go round 1, and he's the guy of the whole class that no one talks about in round 1. I'm glad that you see the vision.
Yeah, I mean, not just round 1, Hayden. I could see number 15 overall, the Bucks. Like he might give some Yaya Diaby vibes, to Jason.
100%.
And that's been a great pick for them. So Malachi Lawrence might be the quote unquote riser over the next month that you see is climbing up draft boards. Number 23. One edge rusher off the board. Here are the Philadelphia Eagles, who need an edge rusher. I mean, again, as of this moment, they haven't made the deal for Jonathan Grenard. In free agency, they lost Jalen Phillips, also Nakobe Dean at linebacker, Reed Blankenship at safety, and they brought in Tariq Woolen. Hayden, I thought Howie would get maybe a little more aggressive and entertaining in his offseason so far. There's plenty of time to do it, but right now he has some holes to fill.
He does. I think the Eagles offseason could beyond chaotic though, because post June 1, you got AJ Brown stuff, perhaps Jalen Carter. I mean, they gave all that money to Jordan Davis. Like, you're going to pay both of them. There's obviously some like just like character concerns with Jalen Carter that they could be, he could be somebody that's on the move. So yeah, I think the Eagles offseason has been quiet so far, but this thing is far from over. My top needs are right guard, edge rusher, tight end. They might bring back Dallas Goedert depending on the price, safety, and then the right tackle plus left guard depending on how they feel about Lane Johnson and Dickerson long term.
Yeah, and Campbell is having another shoulder surgery. Their final first round pick last year in Jahad Campbell. So I'm not saying that clouds anything, but it's not as clean of a last week probably as Howie intended here. Just got priced out of a bunch of deals. I'm thinking they're going to end up trading for Jonathan Grenard, so I'm going to skip edge rusher here and just go for some fun, you know? And with everything going on with AJ Brown, with I think Omar Cooper being a really fun fit here in terms of crossing routes over the middle of the field, get the ball in his hands and just allow him to win after the catch, and also winning down the field. Indiana's Omar Cooper, I think, is a really nice fit for what the Eagles want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this would be signaling that on, June 2nd, AJ Brown would probably be somewhere else. So yeah, this pick will be very interesting because I think it will be foreshadowing their next couple of moves.
Well, I mean, at the same time, they did have a somewhat decent investment in Jahan Dotson. They do play 11 personnel quite a bit,
Right.
And they just have no one as their third wide receiver, unless you and I are counting Johnny Wilson for that, who, just missed a long time with injury. But it's like Darius Cooper and Brenton Covey.
For sure. Receiver. And if you lose Dallas Goedert, Dallas Goedert was just like not the same player to me last year, at least as a blocker, and they might be trying to replace him. You lose Goddard, then all of a sudden, like, you do need somebody else.
24. We're back here with the Cleveland Browns. Again, took a tackle earlier. Still think pillar position. Wide receiver, double up on the offensive line, cornerback. Do those all make sense to you?
They do. I was going to kick it to you. Like, I'm not sure if you've watched enough Ty Simpson yet, but do you think he's going to go round one or stuff? I personally don't. But aside from quarterback, it was, left tackle, you filled that. Wide receiver, edge, and then kind of the nickel corner.
I could see quarterback. I just think with how like Todd Monken's talking and how Andrew Berry's talking, like this thing literally might come down to Deshaun Watson and Shador.
It's going to be Deshaun.
I
think it's going to be Deshaun.
Anyways, let's go with corner. I know he didn't play last season. I know he didn't play at the Senior Bowl. I know he didn't do anything at the NFL Combine. He's 13 months removed from his surgery. But let's go with Tennessee's Jermod McCoy, who many will have as the cornerback one on the board.
Yeah, we'll see what defense they run, but he played a lot of man coverage, and that's what they traditionally have done.
Chicago Bears at number 25 traded away DJ Moore, got a second-round pick in return. Cut Tremaine Edmonds, replaced him with Devin Bush. Lost Kevin Byard, who had 7 interceptions last year. Then had the surprise retirement of Drew Dahlman at center. They filled that in with Garrett Bradbury. Also at left tackle, we know that Ozzie Trapia went down late in the season with an injury. They brought back Braxton Jones after telling him we don't want you, and also signed former first-round pick Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff here for the Bears. A lot of moving chairs here, Hayden.
They have like 6 left tackles. They drafted a developmental guy a couple years ago to play left tackle too. If you have 5 left tackles, you got 0 left tackles, but I think they're probably set there. It's probably going to be defensive player here.
I think it's a defensive player as well. There's even some talk. Remember this a couple weeks ago, maybe at the Combine, of Jervon Dexter getting moved. And then, one of my favorite players ever in the NFL, Grady Jarrett, is certainly on his last legs here. Yes. And so this interior defensive line group is interesting. Caleb Banks, massive human, some questions around that, of his success. And obviously he only played 3 games this past year. Cade McDonald out of Ohio State. Right now I have Peter Woods penciled in. What would you think of that?
Well, today he did not run the 40. He ran the 10, which is,
right.
It's a choice. It's a choice. Apparently he's got an injured hamstring to some degree, but he was doing the rest of the drill. Yeah, fascinating guy. I don't see like the total upside that other people do, but there was a lot of hype, and he's got kind of like poor man's Ed Oliver. I do think compared to like the McDonald profile, who's like a run stuffing nose tackle, I think they need like pass rush juice. So I think it'd be more in the Caleb Banks, Peter Woods style of the defensive tackle. There's not like a clear cut DT1 right now. My favorite would be Banks, but other people like Woods. Yeah,
and they got to get some juice up front. They got to get some pressure up front. It's Montez Sweat, and then some questions around everyone else. So
Yes.
let's give them Peter Woods, and hopefully he recaptures some of that 2024 form, which, by the way, some of that was lining up over the edge rusher and pressing down on the tackle and doing all that.
He reminds me of Fisk, who went in this range, I believe. Yeah.
Minus all the athleticism that we know
about. That's true.
Buffalo Bills at pick 26. We know they spent that second round pick on the aforementioned DJ Moore. Then they trade away Teron Johnson, who's been a mainstay of that corner/safety room. I mean, that has gone through transformation over the last couple of years. Yes. They did bring back Connor McGovern at center, but lost David Edwards at left guard. And then in a true Brandon Bean Moon, after Von Miller, then Joey Bosa, he signed Bradley Chubb. So what does Brandon Bean need to do now?
Well, you pretty much listed it. Left guard, slot corner, linebacker is another one, and then edge rusher, and then, safety position as well.
Yeah, I do like the linebacker shout. I mean, Shaq Thompson was their best linebacker last year. And by all means, he was on his last legs prior to the 2025 season. I am going to go with a corner and someone who I love, and Avion Terrell, AJ Terrell's brother. Now, they took a first-round corner last year in Hairston, but they still need some help on the outside. So I think Avion Terrell could fill in, is so smooth, and I think plays the ball extremely well and locks in phase with his wide receivers quite a bit.
Some teams are going to view him as a nickel guy. I think that's where I would probably play him as well, even though he played a lot on the outside, and that's a position of need.
He might remind them of Trey White a little bit. Just a thought. Oh. Pick 27, San Francisco 49ers. They traded for Osa Odigizua as a slasher up front along that defensive line. We also know they made a splash in signing Mike Evans. Right now, we are still waiting on the Trent Williams standoff at left tackle. What do the 49ers need to do over the next 2 months?
I got left guard, slot receiver, center, outside corner, and then strong safety. Really did like the Osa trade. Like they needed somebody just like that. It made more sense for them to trade for a defensive tackle than edge rusher. I mean, they got no pass rush. That was not just because of the edge injuries. They had like nobody up the middle that had any juice, and that's exactly what Osa brings.
My first thought, and with the Bills a little bit too, because they have Jim Leonard now as a defensive coordinator, and this is a safety. For the 49ers was Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. They've spent on safeties in recent years, and like Malik Mustafa, and then they have Brown and all these other guys. I'm still trying to figure out what Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is like a prospect in terms of how he fits best. Is he just all downhill, or can he be a bit more than that? So that's more on me to do work. So right now I'm going to shelf him, and I'm just going to have some more fun here with Kyle Shanahan. And I think he's going to sit back in hopes that his defense is just healthier, with Michael Williams and Nick Bosa up front, Fred Warner, obviously. And I know they just signed a big time wide receiver in Mike Evans, and then that frees up Ricky Pearsall to do some fun stuff. Why not make it even more enjoyable with Casey Concepcion and weaponize his speed on top of this offense?
He's just the better version of Ricky Pearsall to me, which they need. Like they need a slot and kind of flanker. And I think that Concepcion would do that. He would also bring return juice. They lost Sky Moore. So I think Casey Concepcion, he better go round one. I think that he's got a ton of upside. I thought he was one of the best route runners in the draft class. And then you can watch him pull away from all like the first, second round corners. Watch the tape. He runs right by all of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes even earlier than this, but this would be an awesome fit.
This is one of those early connections I just can't get out of my head. And maybe I'm just looking in the wrong direction here, and they could easily go with another player. But if he's sitting here, I just think it makes so much sense in this offense. That brings us to 28, Houston Texans. Traded for Dave Montgomery. Signed Braden Smith at right tackle. Also Logan Hall and Reed Blankenship on defense. We heard D'Amico Ryans and the GM Nick Caserio say at the NFL Combine, we're going to invest in offensive line. Hayden, bring back like Trent Brown and some other players along with Braden Smith. Do you think they're done at offensive line?
They shouldn't be. They still need some interior help. And they also did mention, which I was shocked by, when they signed Braden Smith, which I thought was a fantastic deal. Like you save $7-8 million versus Titus Howard and you get a pick. And I think that is very equal players. They did mention that Braden Smith could kick inside to guard, which is exactly what they were doing with Titus Howard. So that was like, they didn't have to say that. Like somebody told them, the agent probably was not like, we want my tackle to go kick inside to guard. Somebody else told them that maybe he's going to kick inside to guard, which we'll see about that. I thought he was a sure enough tackle, but Texans do a lot of weird things across the offensive line. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that would have to be at left guard because, they just re-signed Ed Ingram to a pretty sizable deal at the right guard spot. Maybe that's like Blake Miller at right tackle then, who has locked that down for Clemson for multiple years, like over 50, I think, started games for them. The name I went with, though, is Caden Proctor. Now, I understand if your eyebrows are raised here because that's about 1,000 pounds of human on the left side if Caden Proctor comes in. I mean, he's 366 pounds. Ursery, who filled in at left tackle for them last year as a second round pick, is around 330 something pounds. Look, I don't know how they're going to put these puzzle pieces together. I just think if Caden Proctor is here and they want to upgrade their offensive line, they draft him and they figure it out. And maybe that's moving Ursery to left guard. Who knows?
Or Proctor to guard. I mean, he's so massive.
That's a massive guard. That is such a massive human.
I mean, go look at the Rams. There's some teams that just do these massive guard things. We'll see. There's obviously the Alabama connection with Tamika Ryan's here too. So like, I think after his weigh-in, which was in the 350s, which at one point he was in the 400s at Alabama, I do think that was enough to sell me at least that he can go a lot higher than this. I think at one point this was kind of his range. So we're getting to the point where if he's sitting there, the Texans are like, all right, we'll figure this thing out. We got to get this dude in the building.
When both decision makers say we're going to make this position, offensive line, our priority all offseason, I don't think what they did in free agency is enough. They're going to continue to go after it. And if you say to me, well, you're just picking the best one on the board. Yes, that is what I'm doing because they have just moved all these chairs around to get the best 5 starting offensive linemen out there over the last couple of years. And Caden Proctor would be a big help for them.
There's not guards that are projected in the back half of round 1. There's a couple guard only guys that are going to go in maybe 40th overall range, but there's not really the Gray Zabel that's going to slide into this range. It just doesn't exist.
Pick 29, Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about it earlier with the pick of Cardinal Tate. So to me, this comes down to a defensive back, either an edge or a safety, who they ultimately will not give a second contract to in 5 years, or an edge rusher. So look, at corner, there's a good amount of names here, including Colton Hood. At safety, I keep mentioning him. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is probably going to go in this range, if not a bit higher. But I'm going to go with an edge rusher because, Hayden, the last edge rusher that they took at the end of round 1, and Felix.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we've heard his name since it was announced by Roger Goodell crossing the stage. So I'm going to go with Zion Young here, who you might be mentioning without saying his name, as he's mocked in the first round, but I don't see it.
Well, he's going to be a good run defender. If you want me to translate that? I'm not sure if I see the ultimate pass rush ceiling here, but he's going to collapse the pocket and stuff. And it's hard to find an awesome edge rusher this late into the draft. So he would eat a lot of snaps, and they need somebody to do that.
The only reason I'm not doing the others, I mean, again, Metzler is 25, 26 years of age. And then Cassius Howell,
rotation.
You want to bring up arm length and say if it's a big deal or not. I do think it's going to impact who he has success against in the NFL. Does he have bend? Can he turn the corner 100%? But I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL leans towards Zion Young over those two names. 30, Denver Broncos. It's interesting, hey, when we get towards this end of the group at 30, 31, 32, these teams brought back a lot of their names versus everyone at the top of the draft went and got everyone else's players. Mm-hmm. The Broncos brought everyone back except for John Franklin Myers. So my thought immediately was, well, who can bring some interior pass rush and some disruption up front? And that is Caleb Banks out of Florida.
Yeah, I really hope they take a big swing. And I think that Caleb Banks would absolutely do that. Who's going to bring them over the top? I'm looking at the roster. It's another one of these teams where team needs, I listed them. Defensive tackle was my number 1. Linebacker, tight end, running back, edge rusher. It's not like that they're terrible across those positions. They just need a home run. And I think that Caleb Banks, if he hits, he looks like the best defensive tackles in the league. I think this would be a really fun pairing.
31, New England Patriots. In free agency, they trade away Garrett Bradbury, so they're moving their second-year player, Jared Wilson, over to center. They brought in AVT to play left guard. They also signed Romeo Dobbs at wide receiver, Kevin Byard at safety, Draymond Jones along the edge. What do the Patriots also need to do to get over the hump?
I thought it was a really good offseason from them. I think the AVT contract was really good. I like moving Wilson back to center, where he was much better at college at center than he was in the NFL at guard. And they're really athletic up front. I think any of the skill guys, like they can upgrade at tight end or receiver still. I think edge rusher is their top priority. And then if it's not that, Morgan Moses replacement at right tackles on my list, a nose tackle to replace Tonga, linebacker. They can use some bodies there. So they can kind of go in any direction. I would put edge rusher probably number one, but I don't love this range for edge rushers either.
So Morgan Moses, I think some mentioned that he might be flirting with retirement. He is coming back. But when you're in this spot and maybe you really like Blake Miller, why not just get the replacement ready and see what happens? So I'm going to give them Blake Miller here to get ahead of needing a tackle, because as we have seen, when you need a tackle heading into free agency, your pickings might be light. So again, Blake Miller has started over 50 games at Clemson, and I'm going to slot him here as the right tackle of the future for the Patriots.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't go round one.
Okay. Well, he does. And we close it out the first round before all round 2 picks with the Seattle Seahawks at number 32. They lost a lot in free agency, namely Ken Walker, Boye Mafe, 2 defensive backs also who played the most snaps for them at their respective positions. Kobe Bryant had the most safety snaps for them, and then Reek Woolen had the most corner snaps for them. So my mind immediately goes to one of those 2 positions.
Yeah, they're still really bad at guard. There's not a running back in this range, but clearly a need. Outside corner, linebacker, center. So yeah, it's one of those teams they can upgrade a bunch of little spots, but nothing's like super standout. I will say they need to get a better right guard. Enough.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Colton Hood, who was Jamon McCoy's teammate, I guess you could say, this year at Tennessee. I think you really like him, don't you?
Oh yeah. I like to state better than McCoy. I'm on an island there, but yeah.
All right. So he is the new outside corner here for the Seattle Seahawks. And my work is done for the first round. And before we get into round 2 and all of your picks, if you're still watching us right now, we have so much more NFL draft content on the way over the next few weeks. Some of the best stuff that we produce in terms of individual prospect profiles. So about 40% of the people who have watched our channel over the last 28 days are not subscribed. Be a part of the 60% instead and hit that subscribe button and watch every single video that we post. You should do that. All right. Sending it over to you, Hayden. Number 33, New York Jets.
All right. So you gave them Arvel Reese and Vega Ione. They need a corner. San Diego State, Chris Johnson. He really stood out to me on tape. He tested well at the 40. Brentley, who has some connections in the scouting world, he says that they absolutely love this guy. I can see him being a monster fit here. Nahshon Wright they brought in, but that was for cheap. Brandon Stevens up and down. So they need a corner.
Yeah, oftentimes when you see these free agent deals that Nahshon Wright, which was like $12 million, but it was just a 1-year deal. It's like, oh, he's a good player who can start for us if we don't draft someone to replace him. And so Chris Johnson here, if he, gets the scheme down, can fill in immediately as a starter. All right. 34, Arizona Cardinals.
You gave them David Bailey. This is where I'm going to go Ty Simpson. You cannot look at me in the face and say Gardner Minshew versus Jacoby Brissett for the entire year. I mean, so I think this is probably the highest Ty Simpson I think can go. I think there's a chance he kind of slides down into like the 50s or something like that. That's just really tough. If you're an offensive minded head coach and like, you're just going to tell me that the big moves are Algier plus Gardner Minshew. And like, that's what we're rolling with. Now I don't even think like this one's like that likely to happen because the 2027 class should be a lot better than the Ty Simpson tier.
At the same time, does Monty Ossenfort think that he has to get a quarterback here to give them a chance to have enough wins in order to keep his job in 2027? Not like a rookie quarterback is going to keep his job no matter what. Just like, hey, we got to get to 8-9 wins somehow. And I think you could easily make the case that maybe this Cardinals roster is worse this year than it was last year.
I think it's definitely worse, which is hard to do.
Ty Simpson, second quarterback off the board. That brings us to 35 in the Tennessee Titans.
You gave them Sonny Styles here. How about let's go with the edge rusher, Akeem Messidor. Like you said, there's a chance he does fall because of age. And then I'll also throw out, he's got a little foot history and there's some teams that might be scared off of that. I think he's a like top 15 player in this draft class based off of his tape and his movement skills, and then his numbers are fantastic. So you're gonna have to pick which Wart you're gonna be going after. I think he'd be awesome with Robert Saleh.
Saleh isn't going to stop investing in that defensive line. Like, again, he's already moved and changed it based on some players that he has history with, namely Jermaine Johnson. But like, again, John Franklin Myers paired with Jeffrey Simmons is really fun, along with Jordan Elliott that he has history with. They also brought in Jacob Martin on a smaller deal. And then they did spend a second round pick last year on Oladejo, I believe out of UCLA. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's kind of like one of these leaner drop end types. So this would be a fun trio potentially of Jermaine Johnson, Oladejo, and Akeem Mesidor.
Yeah, it really would be. He's got
Mesidor might be the oldest of all those guys. No, actually, Jermaine Johnson was old coming into the draft. That's why I thought he might drop in this round one.
Yeah, Mesidor's actually got pass rush moves and a good first step. So I hope he's okay.
Las Vegas Raiders at 36.
Okay, obviously Fernando Mendoza goes first overall. We were complaining about in the Jalen Naylor video. Nothing against Naylor, but like this team does not have an extra wide receiver. Let's get him one. Denzel Boston, who could do some of like the back shoulder fades that we saw from Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza is willing to throw like some slant routes. I think that's where Denzel Boston's tape is maybe a little bit better than people give him credit for, is like more in like the Michael Pittman type of routes out there. So there's a chance he falls out of the first round, like how you have it here, because he doesn't have that like top end burst. But I do think that he's the body type that the Raiders need on offense.
That brings us to 37 and the New York Giants.
Yeah, so I think that they would love Sonny Styles to be there. He was gone, so you had Jeremiah Love, and you just get CJ Allen. Like, this would be an awesome 1-2 punch, and this is kind of the debates that you're having. Like, there's not a running back that you would take in the second round. There could be a linebacker like CJ Allen, or you can put Jacob Rodriguez higher up on the board as well. So I think this would be a pretty lovely run out. CJ Allen was like the guy on Georgia's defense, one of the most complicated defense, just yelling at everybody, complete maniac, like lining everybody up like until the last second. And he's still super, super young. And he's got a crazy like straight line speed. He's kind of a chaotic player, but I think he checks a lot of boxes for like a team that needs somebody serious up the middle.
His athleticism, Tremaine Edmonds hopefully still has some athleticism to him after all these years in the NFL. That would be your new linebacker pairing after getting rid of Bobby Okereke at that second level.
Way better.
38, the Houston Texans.
So Caden Proctor, we're just labeling him as like an offensive lineman. They'll figure it out later. How about defensive tackle Lee Hunter? So they got a great re-signing, but 31 years old for Rankins. They can groom Lee Hunter to be the next Rankins as like the long-term replacement. He's going to be probably a rotational player, to not have the vertical jump that he wanted. I think right now, if I stood out of my chair and jumped, I would probably be higher. But Lee Hunter's got juice. He's fun. I think in a part-time role, I could see Lee Hunter being like the guy rushing up the A gap and the B gap next to those two freakazoid edge rushers.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We are being nice to each other. I do disagree with the reasoning. I think he's more like Tommy Togiai than Sheldon Rankins. But you know, you can always have big dudes with, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of maybe Lee Hunter got some juice from like the draft community, and maybe the NFL doesn't love him as much.
Well, I don't know how you can't love the fucking man. He's awesome on the microphone. He just got so much chase for a nose tackle. It's like crazy. He's crazy.
Yeah. I am still surprised that we haven't gotten more love for Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma, but that's who I saw as like the 1-to-1 Sheldon Rankins in this class. Okay. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. Cleveland Browns 39, their third pick already.
Yeah. So we have Monroe Freeling at left tackle, cornerback Jermod McCoy. If you look at it, it's kind of crazy to say the Browns need an edge rusher. Name the other edge rushers on the team behind Myles Garrett. Like it is lacking. So I'm going Cassius Howell, who's not going to play all the snaps, but he's going to be the pass rush guy. Like you mentioned, the arm length, just like the actual size of him. He cannot play against like rundowns, but Cassius Howell can turn the corner and pin your ears back. He's going to get a lot of one-on-ones on the other side. I do think that would make the third down pairing pretty difficult.
We've made 3 picks for the Browns and don't have a single wide receiver for them yet. Is that just because none of these guys are worth it? Like Jeremy Bernard or Chris Bell coming off injury, so on and so forth.
I was considering Jeremy Bernard. I want to take like maybe a little bit bigger of a swing than that. But
yeah. Next, Kansas City Chiefs at number 40.
Yep, Carnell Tate and Zion Young were the first rounders you gave them. All right, I'm going to call my shot here. Arizona had a nickel / safety, Traden Stukes, who absolutely lit up the combine. So I went immediately and watched him. This dude's a baller, man. And I can just see Steve Spags blitzing him, the versatility. They're looking for that nickel corner. I think that he can play nickel. He certainly did in the slot. But he's a freak athlete and really smart, was a captain. He was initially a walk-on. I can see Spags being like, yeah, this is my guy, and he'll be the next guy that in 5 years will get a first-round pick after he's an all-pro. So this is one of the guys not ranked this high yet. I think he's going to go high.
So basically we are recreating the war room conversation here. Spags saying, I've got 2 first-round picks. I'm going to be able to fill in the issues I have at corner and safety. But no, as long as I get my guy, my target player, Traden Stukes in round 2, take whoever you want in the first 2 picks of round 1.
Easy. It's that simple for Spags.
Pick 41 in the Cincinnati Bengals after taking Dylan Thieneman in the first round.
Yeah, they're so desperate for a freaking defensive tackle with some pass rush juice. Obviously, second rounders are getting unproven players, but Christian Miller is somebody that looks the part. He needs some development for sure. But Christian Miller looks like the type of guy that the Bengals absolutely need on the interior. So they're in a little bit better shape at edge rusher after getting Boye Mafe, but defensive tackle room, it's not looking pretty.
Yeah, right now, at least on our lads, it's BJ Hill, TJ Slayton, Chris Jenkins Jr., who really hasn't done anything as a second-round pick a couple years ago. Technically, their edges should be okay because they spent first-round picks on Shamar Stewart and Miles Murphy, and then you have Boye Mafe coming in free agency. But yeah, defensive tackle is a bigger need. It does feel weird talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and not even bringing up offensive line as a need with 5 returning starters there.
Yes, I think they can get better on the interior, but it was much, much, much better this last season than it was throughout the rest of the Joe Burrow career.
Christian Miller off the board. That brings us to 42 in the New Orleans Saints.
Ruben Bain went round 1 for us. We'll go defensive tackle Caden McDonald. He's, going to play on run stopping downs, but his tape was really, really dominant. If he fell this far, I think that would be a little bit of a surprise to me, but not every single team is going to have the nose tackle straight up like Caden McDonald does. So I thought his 10, 15 best run plays will literally make you laugh. So I'd be pretty stoked if I was the Saints here, play light boxes, and all of a sudden I have this guy right in the middle of it.
Yeah, this is another team just like what we talked about with the Cleveland Browns that could probably upgrade their wide receiver 2 spot. It's just, are you going to be that first next team to dip into the next tier of wide receivers?
Yep.
That is the Miami Dolphins at 43.
So we got Francis Mauigoa to play guard and eventually tackle. They don't have a single safety. They traded away Minka Fitzpatrick, which, by the way, good on you for getting a team to take on that contract there. Their other guys are all safeties. So this is my Emmanuel McNeil-Warren team. I think this is a more appropriate range for him. I didn't see the crazy elite athleticism there. He made some plays on the ball, but I don't fully trust him. He's kind of a freestyler. So he reminds me of a second round corner who's going to rotate down in the box, make some big plays. But this is not Nick Manwari in terms of the mock draftable chart. And this is not the reliable first rounders that we've seen in the past. This is more a traditional second round pick.
That's what I was going to ask you, because on some rankings, he is listed as the second safety. I see him all the time just locked no matter what into the top 32. So I felt bad not having him in there. I mentioned some teams that could potentially look at him again, like the Bills at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
But if you think this is closer to his range, maybe it kind of drifts in that direction. We get this type of movement in mock drafts over the next 6 or so weeks.
Yeah, it's only the difference of 15 picks. It's not that crazy for somebody to slide, and we had it a little bit wrong. So he's still a good player. I just don't view him as it's hard to be a first round safety. The bar to be a first round safety is so ridiculous.
And after that, the Dolphins only need 4 more starters to figure out. Okay, the Jets at pick 44.
Okay, so they made a bunch of picks. We got Arvel Reese, Vega Iona at guard, and then we have Chris Johnson, the corner. This is where I have Jeremy Bernard going here. Okay. If you look at our lads, their 3 wide receiver set starter is Isaiah Williams. I'm not sure if you can tell me anything about Isaiah Williams. I can't. Jeremy Bernard would, kind of calm down the wide receiver room. You have the whatever we're calling the Adonai Mitchell experience as your X receiver. Fun, very fun. Garrett Wilson is actually extremely fun. But he can play on the inside or the outside. Same thing with Jeremy Bernard. Not nearly as fun as those other guys. But maybe they don't need as much fun in the wide receiver room. And maybe somebody like Jeremy Bernard could help him out a little bit.
You cannot get more opposite of an Adonai Mitchell profile than Jeremy Bernard.
Yep.
They are like polar opposites on the spectrum.
Could we combine them? I would love to combine those two guys. That would be quite the player.
All right, some stability to that wide receiver room. There's Jeremy Bernard. Number 45 and the Baltimore Ravens.
So you went center Spencer Fanu. How about corner Brandon Cisse? I think showed a lot of speed out South Carolina, outside corner there. Maybe a little bit more up and down than like a traditional first round corner, but Marlon Humphrey's inside. He got kind of burnt a lot. And then Chidobe Awuzie brought back for cheap. They obviously, it's like you just said, if you bring back a corner for cheap, like that's a signal that in the draft it's a target.
Okay, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is really the team that I think if they looked at themselves in the mirror, they would say right now we are way worse than we were entering the 2025 season.
Yes, I agree. They still need another linebacker. I know they got Alex Anzalone, but they still need another one. I got Jacob Rodriguez here, really fun player. Had the most forced fumbles of any college player ever. And how he did it was just ridiculous. Like punching the ball out. He's showing up to places that quarterbacks had no idea that he was going to show up there. He's not like going to completely wow you with his physical profile, but then in the combine drills was very fluid. I think he was one of these like the miles per hour and the back pedal, like standout guys. This dude just made a zillion freaky turnover plays. And I can see Todd Bowles like really liking the aggressiveness out of Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, an outstanding testing athlete on top of it. 84th percentile 40, 88th percentile vert, 72nd percentile broad, 86th percentile three cone, 79th percentile shuttle. Now his weight is down at the 21st percentile.
Yeah, small
off-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
So that certainly changes things. But yeah, I can totally see if they move off of Levante David, they totally reshape their linebacker room in one offseason. That's for sure. Indianapolis Colts at 47. Give it to me.
No first round pick. They lost Kwity Paye. They nearly had Trey Hendrickson. So I'm looking squarely at edge rushers here. R. Mason Thomas. The R stands for absolutely nothing. He is a speed rusher on the outside. I don't view him very dissimilarly from the guys commonly mocked in the middle and back half of round one. So totally different ways to get there. All of these guys, some teams are going to have him higher than the other guys that we talked about. So yeah, the Colts, I think, are going edge rusher.
That brings us to the Atlanta Falcons and pick 48. Back-to-back teams that did not have a first-round pick.
Correct. Well, their wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 are new. They're also Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yep.
Not my favorite. So I think this team like actually needs like another wide receiver. It sounds crazy when you have Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts, but like those other guys are just like not good enough. Let's take a shot here. Chris Bell, who they did not have a first round pick, but this guy, if he gets back to full health, I do think he has like some like back half round one potential. Outside receiver, crossing routes, whatnot, and then get up the field. Like a lot of like shallow crosses. Kind of the Stefanski offense, more or less. It's definitely like the Tua offense if he can get back and healthy. So ACL tear in the middle of the season, but he was really popping off. Go watch him against Miami and tell me that you're not somewhat intrigued here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of an Atlanta Falcons fan that slept for the last 4 months and wakes up and hears you say, that sounds like the Tua offense. And he's like, oh no, what does my team have up their sleeve for 2026?
Oh man.
Yeah. Pick 49. The Minnesota Vikings are back on the clock.
Jordan Tyson went round 1 for us. I'm going to go find the safety, and this is LSU's AJ Halsey, who is a post safety, keep him in the back, ball hawk type, which I think Brian Flores is on the look for right now. So a lot of the other safeties are like kind of more in the box and stuff. He's the one that kind of stands out. He's definitely going to sit way back in the post.
Pick 50 and the Detroit Lions, who added their right tackle of the present in round 1. Where does that mean we go in round 2?
I'm just looking at the edge rushing group behind Aiden Hutchinson. Just like there's nobody left. They've all hit free agency. So you can pull up the edge rushing group. How about Gabe Yakas? It's not Jackass, it's Yakas. It's a silent J here. He's one of these guys, just like, big, physical. I like the way he plays. Do I love like his first step and everything? I don't. He looks like all the other edge rushers that we're talking about. Edge rushers get paid a lot. Like, I think just like as a reminder, go look at all of the edge contracts right here and compare them to the other positions. Like, even the guys that don't like go crazy, if you're eating snaps in the NFL, you're worth 12, 15, $20 million. All these guys can do that. I don't see like a, $30 million per year edge rusher aside from maybe like Malachi Lawrence. All these other guys just like depth, innings eaters, but those guys are still very valuable in the NFL's eyes.
I'm not sure if he's going to be here in the next 15 picks for you. I do want to make a pitch for Joshua Josephs, who I think does kind of move differently as what we're talking about versus these at the line, pure power rushers that just take 3 seconds to get the quarterback. Joshua Josephs has some like real spring to his step.
I've not watched him yet, so I will get in the lab.
Okay, there we go. That brings us to the Carolina Panthers at 51.
So you went with the left tackle in Lomu. I'll go with D'Angelo Pons and put him as the nickel corner. He's 5'9", 173. Now, the two outside corners that they had for the Panthers, they were really stepping up late in the year. Pons would go on the inside of that, and that'd be a really awesome group in general. So he played extremely well. It's just like, what do you do with 5'9", 173? Traditionally, that means inside. I think that is a need.
Yeah, I think you could argue this is the Panthers' biggest need right now. They really don't have a nickel corner. It's somewhat Chow Smith-Wade, maybe Corey Thornton, but he's more of a perimeter corner, and they're just loaded at that spot. And if it doesn't work at nickel, you can play him at safety here with D'Angelo Pons as well. He just like kind of makes plays and is around the football.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not going to say he's Mike Sainristil of a couple of years ago, because I don't think you ever want D'Angelo Pons necessarily playing where Mike Sainristil has been forced to play over these last couple of years as an outside like boundary corner. But They have, I think, some overlapping skill sets.
The fights. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Sanderson's got a little more density to him, where I think he can actually go around and make some tackles that maybe Pons doesn't have in his bag. But that was also interesting going back to the Commanders, and they went after Amik Robertson to play the nickel spot, and which means like Sanderson's just going to be the outside guy.
Yep.
So that was just kind of an interesting signing that they went with.
Green Bay Packers at 52. This is their first pick of the draft.
It is. You've been looking at their transactions the last 12 months. It's just like a corner comes in and then he goes. Corner comes in, then he goes. So best available corner in Arizona State, Keith Abney. I haven't looked at the exact measurables, and we'll figure exactly out who's going to be like the perfect Packers corner, but I do think corner is very ripe for him.
We'll move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick number 53.
Okay, Mekhi Lemon in round 1. They lost their left guard, Isaac Seumalo, to free agency. Left guard, Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. He was at USC for a year. I will claim him. I really did like his tape. He definitely looks and feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler, like really dense. I do think he has like a pretty decent straight line speed, kind of gap style player. But yeah, really weird. All the USC Trojans leave for Oregon. It's probably not a good sign for me.
The Steelers don't have a left guard in their roster at this moment, unless you include Spencer Anderson, who's a 7th round pick in 2023. They just have nothing there.
Yep.
So something needs to happen at that position, whether it be whoever's left in free agency or they draft their guy in round 2. And as we know, a couple years ago, they drafted a starting center in round 2 in Zach Frazier, and then a starting right guard in Mason McCormick. So they've found these guys in day 2 and day 3 of the draft. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia Eagles at 54.
This would be another Howie does it again. Chase Besantis, guard, kind of falls here. And it's a perfect position of need to play right guard for him. He can be the left guard for Landon Dickerson if his body doesn't cooperate here. The strength and conditioning coach, this is from Dane Brugler, said that Chase Besantis is the strongest player he's ever coached, and that guy's been coaching strength and conditioning forever. So yeah, he's a really solid level player, and that's a lot better than what they've had at right guard recently.
I think while we were recording this episode, Landon Dickerson signed an extension, so he must feel good about where his body's at right now. Yeah, I think it's up in the air how much they like Tyler Steen as a long-term answer at right guard, or if they feel like he is replaceable and upgradable. And then at some point Lane Johnson will be done at right tackle, and we keep hearing mentions of that here or there. If he isn't, if he's coming to the end, or if he's going to play for a while. And then if they don't trade for Jonathan Grenard, Again, I'll throw out Joshua Joseph's name out of Tennessee. All right.
Yep.
Chase Besantis. It is 55 and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Malachi Lawrence snuck him in there. Really liked that call from you there. I'll go linebacker Jake Galday from Cincinnati. Kind of like a little bit like Leo Chenal to him, where he's a very good athlete. He kind of plays like not traditional off-ball linebacker, more like an overhang player, and kind of just shooting from like more like not like a nickel, but like kind of out in that area. So weird kind of fit. But he was very productive. And he's got the size and stuff that I think Harbaugh would appreciate. I think the other linebacker spot is very much up for grabs for Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's Deion Henley, and then they've gone through Denzel Perryman and these other players. So if they like Jake Galday, he could be a starter immediately. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars at 56. Also, their first pick of the draft. The Jaguars have gone through some changes as of late as well.
Yep.
We talked about the running back position, no longer having Travis Etienne. They did bring in Chris Rodriguez, and they have Bajal Tutin, and they have LaQuint Allen. Other than that, though, everything is blue on our lads, and it's basically bringing everyone back here in the fold with Monteric Brown at corner.
Really is another team that doesn't have like tremendous obvious needs, but I think they can upgrade a lot of things. One thing that maybe like overlooked, they don't have like an edge 3 right now. So that's where I was kind of leaning. And this was a team that was like, when you're listening, like, well, Trey Hendrickson might go here. Max Crosby 100%. Might get traded for. Like, edge was maybe a position that's maybe a little bit of something overlooked. So I went Derek Moore here. If you want to click Joshua Josephs, because that's your boy, by all means. But yeah, I think edge rushers on the table.
All right, we'll pick Derek Moore so the graphic can stay the graphic. Okay. Next, 57 and the Chicago Bears.
All right, Peter Woods for some pass rush pop on the interior, and then Danny Dennis Sutton, tons of pop, Penn State edge rusher. He's one of these guys, not all that productive, but then shows up as a Penn State Nittany Lion to the NFL Combine and pretty much sweeps it. So no depth behind Montez Sweat, who's probably year to year at this point because he's been there for a little bit. They just have nobody out there. So this is like a bet on trades more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's 6'6", 256, 93rd percentile height, obviously, as an edge rusher, but then 93rd percentile 3-cone, 98th percentile broad jump, 95th percentile vert, 85th percentile 40. Draft athletes to rush the passer, and it can work out. I mean, Montez Sweat was like that coming out of Mississippi State.
Of course. Oh, yeah. What is Penn State doing to get all these guys like this, and then they're just like never winning the big game? Like, what? Like, explain this.
We'll see if this travels to Virginia Tech, or if it's like Penn State's recruitment department, or if it's Franklin doing it at his next stop too.
Interesting.
So. All right, San Francisco 49ers and 58 overall.
You had a lot of fun with Casey Concepcion in round one. I'm going to do the most Shanahan thing ever. Mike Washington Jr. here as my running back too. Brian Robinson is a free agent. They obviously don't like Garendo. I would guess that they want like a compliment to Christian McCaffrey, and they got to be realistic about like how many touches they can give Christian McCaffrey and how impactful he is. A good compliment to McCaffrey would be Mike Washington, who's just super, super fast. Like, this would be so on brand for Shanahan, but they're ripe for a running back going a little bit earlier just because of how bad the depth chart is behind Christian McCaffrey, his age, and then the volume of touches and the injury history. So this should just be a lot of fun.
Maybe I'm off base. I really do see Mike Washington being the second running back off the board, just based on how he tested and, you know, how much more tape he has out there versus Jadarian Price. I mean, I could see it 64 to the Seahawks. I'm not saying like that's the latest he'll go, but these two teams make a lot of sense. I'll also throw out there, Hayden, I think this area is some more of like the interior offensive line pieces, like Sam Hecht. The center could be a second round pick, and maybe the 49ers finally look there and try to upgrade on Jake Brendel, who is old, and they also need a left guard on top of it. So the 49ers have some interesting pieces, but as we always know, they always have areas that they can improve, and they never seem to attack them until like round 3 or round 4.
Yeah, typically Shanahan, burns his 3rd round pick on the running back, so this would be a little bit earlier than typical, but he ran that fast.
Houston Texans at 59.
Okay, we're doing a little bit of a teammate thing. So we had Caden Proctor, Lee Hunter at defensive tackle. This is where I'll go with Romello Height, an edge rusher. This would be depth behind the top 2 guys. He has like more like lateral quickness. He's got a decent enough first step. He is on the smaller side, so he would for sure be a rotational member, but that's all the Texans need right now. So Lee Hunter, Romello Height, those were the other two guys next to obviously David Bailey, and then Jacob Rodriguez. So that's 4 Texas Tech defensive players in the top 60. It's crazy.
Just like Mesidor, Romello Height will be 25 years of age during his rookie season. So it's one of the reasons why you can get him in round 2. Okay, we'll move on to the Chicago Bears once again at pick number 60.
Yeah, this one caught me off guard. I didn't realize they had the 2 picks.
This is the DJ Moore selection.
The DJ Moore. Yeah, the DJ Moore stuff, which I just still can't believe, man. Peter Woods and then Dennis Sutton for the defensive players. They do need another receiver. I think they got to be pretty particular about what type of wide receiver they need, because they lost not just DJ Moore, but also Olamide Zaccheaus. Luther Burden was able to play on the outside a little bit, so it could be an inside or outside player. I went with Jacoby Lane, who, if you want to keep Rome Odunze off the ball and put Jacoby Lane as the X receiver, kind of just like a throw it up type of guy. Obviously, there's a UFC connection between Caleb and Jacoby Lane. So I think wide receivers on the menu.
This is the biggest scroll down I've had so far, Hayden. Why do you think Trevor Sikkema dislikes Jacoby Lane so much?
Probably doesn't run fast enough. But
like, what are you seeing, I guess, versus maybe the consensus on Jacoby Lane?
I think that he's more smooth and he's like nitpicking. Like he's more of like a setting up his tempo and not like always just trying to be really slow out there. I just think that he's not Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman has more like yak ability than Jacoby Lane does, but I think that style player still wins.
61 and the LA Rams.
Okay. Kenyon Sadiq was your fun pick. I'll match you there. My fun pick, this is more on the Tutu Atwell role. Brennan Thompson, all speed, 4 2s. And this would be fun,
How
man.
Are we getting both these players on the field? How are we getting Kenyon Sadiq and Brennan Thompson on the field?
Because they're not going Sadiq in round 1. They're going Brennan Thompson in round 2. I mean, this would be terrifying. If you're just trying to, it's 3 wide receiver sets, and you have to worry about the fastest player in the field over the top, plus Puka and Devontae Adams, man, like that's terrifying. So like think about like the DeMarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Mumfield, it's those guys, but they could run 4.25.
I think we've gone a bit overboard on the weapons here. I mean, you could have just gone like Eli Stowers.
I could have. I thought about it.
Okay, 62 and the Denver Broncos. Did I just mention his name and he appears?
Yes. Eli Stowers. We did it in round 1 because we got over our skis right after the combine. I think this is probably more appropriate. Is he a slot receiver? Is he a tight end? We'll have Sean Payton figure that out.
Is he a joker? The dreaded J word.
He is. He actually is, though.
63 and the New England Patriots.
Okay, you have right tackle Blake Miller as like kind of the heir apparent. Another heir apparent here at tight end, Max Clare, who I think he didn't get the testing results at the combine. If he had, I think there'd be a lot of hype here. He wasn't productive at Ohio State because they have Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and I'm sure a bunch of other first-round wide receivers that we don't know about. Claire, I think, could really move. He's got the size and he can block. There was like some times where he's like legitimately blocking defensive ends. So it's not just like the second level linebacker stuff. I think that he can hold the line as an inline guy. So there's a Hunter Henry kind of replacement long-term here. I think that tight end, like this is the class to do it again. I think there's some pretty intriguing second, third, fourth round picks in this class.
Yeah. One of my biggest surprises of the new Josh McDaniels era is the lack of investment in tight end. They did it with veterans last year with Austin Hooper and obviously Hunter Henry. This offseason, they did sign Julian Hill and then Reggie Gilliam, who's like a fullback tight end, H-back hybrid type guy. So this might just be a hint that they're going to invest in it even more. And I really like Max Clare. He's like an every down tight end body type, which is not the same thing as what we just talked about, most likely with Eli Stowers.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's close this thing out. 64 and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, this one just fell perfectly for my second round mock. I wanted him in there. Jadarian Price stays in the second round, goes to the Seattle Seahawks. He was my best available player. Like when I was doing my mock draft stuff, they have a massive need here without Kenneth Walker. The best available guys, it might be like, Rashad White. And then our boy Sam Sherman made a good note. Apparently Charbonnet didn't have his ACL surgery until like February 20th. So that well after when he did it. So like it was not that it just happened really late in the season, which obviously is bad news. He also like delayed his, which could be a signal that it was not just a clean ACL tear, but you're not coming back in the first half of the season if your ACL surgery is February 20th. So this is like a bigger need than I anticipated. And it's obviously like glaring when the Super Bowl MVP leaves the door.
Hopefully all that it was just the swelling had to go down, but we don't always get all the details about these.
Agreed.
That is for sure. Yeah. Okay, before I click this button, because it'll go away, is there one more player that you just want to like put on people's radars as like the 65th? Not saying going to the 65th team, but just like, hey, keep an eye on X player. I really liked what I saw.
Okay. Let me do a quick little scroll here.
I'll go with mine. Again, I'll mention him. Grayson Halton. I think we see the interior defensive line class in free agency was quite bad.
Yep.
There just wasn't enough pass rushing juice to get up the field. And I see a lot from Grayson Halton, an outstanding testing athlete. I saw him have the hustle to chase a quarterback to the sideline by about 30 yards and stick in string and keep him for a no gain. I really like Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma.
Okay, I'll do two skill position guys. Tight end Oscar Delp out of Georgia. He can inline block, and then he's one of these guys. If you look at the on-field metrics, he's flying across the 99th percentile out there.
Trevor Sigma hates your guys.
Well, he's injured. He's got a broken foot, so maybe Trevor's seen the X-rays and the scans here. And then the other guy is Ted Hurst, Georgia State. Looks the part, really raw still, but he had a good Senior Bowl and then tested like a freak athlete, which you have to do if you're going to come from Georgia State in the NIL era and be a potential second rounder, but he's passed those tests.
We have completed it. The top 64 picks in the 2026 NFL draft. We'll have many, many, many more of these ahead. So again, hit that subscribe button if you've been new around here. And starting on Monday or Tuesday, we have our prospect series rolling out. Individual videos, 10 to 15 minutes on all the top prospects at quarterback, wide receiver. We'll do as many running backs as possible and tight ends on top of that. And we'll also have positional top 10s as well as we go through the next 6-7 weeks of the draft process. So appreciate you all watching. Appreciate Moshe and Weez behind the scene. Up the villa, everyone. We'll talk to y'all soon. See ya. God, my brain is... Who's the offensive coordinator's name?
Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll. Okay.